because
So you got to that screen by choosing advanced
Definitely
or super
gonna
advanced
overgrow
controls
it.
or something
Yeah.
like that.
It'll be too big.
I think that's how you got to. Okay. So first thing you got to do is turn everything on, right? So this typically is going to be covered. There's the cover right there. We'll probably find a better place for it. Pull that off, and right back here, you can feel the power switch. And this is actually a computer, so you got to wait for it to boot up. And by the way, it's on an uninterruptible power supply, so that if we get a brownout or something, it doesn't take 5 minutes to get sound back. So that's nice. Actually, everything back here's, every rack has a UPS in it, I believe. I asked him about that. So you can see it's booting up. It's got status. Okay. So wait for the actual control screen to come up. But you can see how painful this would be if it happened during a live show. Okay, so right now, this actually has security built into it, so people can't come in and do nasty things. I've got an admin login and a band login, and they all have the same functionality, so we'll just go band right now. And there we are. Okay, that band doesn't have a password. The admin password is mix me please, all lowercase. All right. And don't suck while doing it. Okay, so that's phase one, right? You turn on the mixer first, then the power amps. Way over here, on this little touch screen, is remote control for the power amps. So, come on over here, come on over here to see it. This is some sort of advanced mode screen. You can see it over here. There's a basic mode. When I walked in today, it was in basic mode, and I couldn't figure out how to turn the power amps on, because no one ever showed me how to do this, even though this is very crucial to what we do. So we had advanced controls, and you go complex mode, and we say, yes, we want to be complex. And then over here is turning audio, and the amps went to okay by themselves. I did not tell them to do it. Oh, I believe that the mixer talks to the amps and says it's safe to turn on. I think it does it automatically. But you need to know about this once again in case something goes south. All right.
And Nathan and Steve, if either of us or whoever can help with that too. Obviously, if something's goofy and you have to go to that and help navigate for sure.
What else is that
thing
for?
It's for folks who want to do simple things with this complex system. So it's got, you know what macros are? Okay, it's a computer term that means there's a whole bunch of commands lurking behind one button, right? So there's buttons on there that says turn on the whole video system. And then there's buttons on there that say I want audio, but I don't know how to use this mixer, so I just want, you know, control over the couple of microphones. All right. So that's what that's for. It's you know, run the system for dummies kind of stuff. All right. So, you know, I want to do a simple youth group thing or some kind of talk session, and you need the microphones. All right. So notice now that we're up, we got a little flashy thing here. That means something went wrong, and there's a message about it. And if it annoys you, this is really goofy here. But sorry, the camera has to see it. All right, so you actually touch the icon. Oh, it went away. All right, good. But no, that's good. But if it's flashing like that and you're concerned about what it might say, you have to keep hitting the little blue button that has the eye on it until there are no more blue buttons. It takes like five of them, and then you'll finally get the message. All right, that was probably, I lost audio sync with the Dante network or maybe the amplifiers because I had it turned off and I turned it on, and I regained audio sync. That's usually what that message says. Okay, So now the first thing that I do on any given Sunday would be pull these guys over here. By the way, this mixer is completely configurable. Every single fader can control anything you want. But the way we've got it configured is these right now anyway. We may change it. But these 4 on the right will always have the same functionality, okay? This one being the mains, this one being the subs. This one is not something we will use, so we'll probably change it, but this is you can plug a USB drive in here and record the music. We're probably not going to do that. And then the broadcast feed, very important one, okay? So the first thing I'd probably do is pull those down, and over here on the right-hand side, sorry, I need to back up a little bit. Every set of faders you see here has layers to it. So this is actually 12 faders times 6 layers. Same with this, all right? And they function independently of each other. So I hit buttons and I get different layers, okay? So over here, I happen to know that the iPod is on layer 4. So what I want to do is I just want to pump some music through the system, make sure it's all alive before anybody gets here and we do anything. So this tablet's always going to be here, right, Nathan?
Yeah.
If we treat Nathan nicely, it'll always be here. So look, we've got signal level. See that? So we can probably pull up the mains and we should hear something. And there we go. If you want to really have fun, anyway, I like things loud. So, system's working. We can pause this.
Why are there 2 faders on the far right that you're bumping up? What are those 2 faders?
These guys?
Yeah.
This is mains. This is subs.
Okay.
Okay,
The
so
subs and mains are independent.
they're independent of each other.
Nice.
All right. So yeah, that's a good point. So you'll notice that I actually tweaked it while we were listening. So no subs. Subs, no subs. Big difference. So Terry was very adamant about keeping the faders at 0 because he said pulling them off 0 will change the phase relationships of the input channels. I've never heard that before from anybody. I'm going to believe him for the time being. He's got a lot more experience doing these church systems than I do. But that seemed strange to me. And it also took away a tool that I like to have, which is the main volume level, right? But anyway, we'll honor that for the time being. Which means you got to do everything with these faders over here or these faders over here. Notice this little effect. This is a stereo input. These guys are joined together. This is totally configurable. I can gang 12 faders together if I want, okay? But we've never done more than 2 at this point. All right.
Is it the same thing, just 2 screens?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's functionally, we could configure this and this to be identical to each other if we wanted to. We're just dividing up the functionality here. So the way that we've got the system configured right now, and it was the way Terry suggested, and this is he said it was his favorite board to use as far as the usability goes. And I'm liking what he did so far, because when you're mixing, the advantage of a physical surface is you start to develop a muscle memory. And you go, you know, you hear something bad, you know where to reach. When you use an app on an iPad, it's like, wait, which menu is that in? You know. Now there's a little bit of that here because you got to get the layer and the right channel. But even on an totally analog system, you got to find the right channel. But typically, when I was mixing on analog boards, I'd be going like that. Oh, there it is. You know, because it's this big matrix of knobs, right? So here, the thing that we've got to become familiar with as users, the video, by the way, is ganged together like that as well, is what's on what layer. So who wants to punch some layer buttons? Katie, go ahead. Punch some. All right? What does that first one say?
Drums. Well, it's
Drums.
all the different parts.
All the different drums. So first layer on the left-hand side is all the drums and all the percussion. Try the next layer.
Bass, guitar, keys, tracks.
So all the instruments, basically.
Vocals.
Now this gets interesting.
Host, preacher. I don't know what BC 1 and 2 are.
Yeah, this is where things get a little out of the box, and we're going to have to deal with it. That stands for broadcast.
Oh.
These are the volume levels for the two microphones in that room way over there. And how do you know when you need to turn those on and turn them off? Well, the broadcast hosts, when we start, are just going to be doing their job at the beginning of the service during the countdown video. Okay? So you got to have the countdown video at the right level in this room, but you got to be listening on your headphones to the broadcast guys over there. And you got to be able to jiggle things around at the transition point when they stop talking and the band starts. All of these changes have to happen simultaneously, and I'm working through what that procedure is going to be. But I built a special layer for that. Hit the bottom button on the right as well.
This one?
Yep. That's the layer for making the transition from that room to this room. That's so far what I've identified as the all the faders you're probably going to need in order to make that transition. I might not need the iPod, but I'm definitely going to need the video because the video is playing. I'm definitely going to need their broadcast mics. And then we've got these special, you guys remember what auxiliary buses are? They are total mixes that you can send somewhere else, right? You've got the mix that goes out to the speakers in the front of house, but you can also have up to 48? No. 24, I don't remember how many buses. Separate buses you can send anywhere you want. So you can create however many there are. Let's say there are 24. You can create 24 individual stereo mixes on this thing. All right? What we've done is created a special stereo mix for the broadcast stream and a special stereo mix for the live people. We call it live. We might name it something else. For the people that are the hosts in the other room. That way what we can do is fade this down and this up. And those two things don't affect anything in the room. They just affect the broadcast feed. Okay? So during that transition, you have to listen on your headphones, and we'll train for this and all that. So don't sweat it too much, but I'm telling you, this is going to be probably the most difficult thing you'll have to deal with in any given morning, is this transition point to make it smooth. You'll have to be listening on the phones during that transition, and you'll do the crossfade, and then you have to whip them off because the band's going to start, just like that. Okay?
Is there someone running camera in that room?
I believe the camera just is static.
It's just static. We're currently talking about how to have someone there with the hosts.
Because if there was, they could have an iPad, and they could kind of be in charge of the broadcast, maybe at some point.
That's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea.
In front of post-action.
I mean, you would still want to make sure that they actually mute it, but might help to split it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm setting up for our lesson today. Let's see, where is that? Okay, solo in place. There it is. Pew, pew, pew. Okay. I have now switched the board into a special mode that we'll never use except for lessons. Okay? So what's happening here, if it didn't lose its brains when I shut it off, is, let's see if this will play. No, lost its brains. Okay. We will shut this down, start it back up. Basically what I've done is during rehearsal the other day, I used this console to record all the raw input from everybody on the stage before it got processed by anything in the input channels. That means they call this mode, and then what I just did is I put the board in a special mode called virtual sound check. So right now we're going to do an actual sound check with actual inputs that have been unprocessed. It's a really great training method. Once again, if I can get it going. There we go. Okay, we got it. Yeah. So we're actually, there's the kick drum. Okay. Ignore the sound coming out of those headphones. Of course, here's something that doesn't have any drums going on. Let's go over here. Okay. So what we're going to be able to do today is try and make this sound good. So, like I said, we've got several layers here. We've got the drums, instruments, vocals, and a bunch of miscellaneous stuff that we're not going to deal with tonight. Okay, I want everybody to come up here one at a time and push layer buttons. You already did.
Mm-hmm.
Next.
I passed.
I want you to push. You can do two at a time, I suppose, because there's a left and a right. I want you to see, feel what it looks like. And so, for instance, if you go back to layer 1, and you got faders, right? Now go to layer 2.
Yeah, they're gonna clear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, or whatever they were.
Whatever they were,
Yeah,
they're gonna set.
yeah. And since the board's been off.
Yep. And go ahead and touch the screen on a channel strip. See what it does.
Okay.
Right, and there's an X up there.
Yep.
See that?
Yep.
Okay.
Easier.
So you can see on the right-hand side, we've got a bunch of special functionalities. We've got
There you go, that's what you're talking about.
a bunch of DCAs that we set up,
Yeah.
which we'll get to in a minute. We've got that layer for transition.
Right.
We've got, if you push layer 2, we've got in-ear monitors. That's where all the in-ear monitors.
Oh yeah, Terry was talking about that. Yeah, yeah, and yeah. Okay.
Which we're not going to want to touch, so we
Right.
might put some kind of safety on that. I can do that. Yeah, I can lock them.
Yeah.
And then we've also got effects sends. This has 6 effects buses set up right now. Go ahead.
Yeah. Push around, play around.
Wee. Wee.
It's fun.
It is fun.
We've got 6 effects buses, and of course with an effects bus, if you think about it, historically they used to be a separate box. They used to have a rack next to the mixer with a bunch of these units in that you wired into the mixer manually. So if you think about it, you have to send a signal out, a mix out to those effects and get it back. So we got 2 layers. One is effects send, one is effects return. And in order to get effects, you've got to get, go ahead. You've got to get, all those faders have to be turned up. The sends, the returns, and then any kind of master fader that you've got configured control them all. And we've got a DCA that controls all the effects except for delay, and then we've got a DCA that controls delay, which is a nice way to set it up. I liked how he did it. So. Touch the screen. Touch something interesting. See what happens.
There you go.
That's how you learn.
See what you can mess up.
There's an X. Do you see in the
Here's
box?
screen
There's an
mode.
X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's like
Someone
the
else
record
can
software
Good
with
screen
friends.
touching.
You touch the screen well. You put a fingerprint on it.
I feel like we should say your flight is leaving in 5 minutes.
Lift off.
Lift off. Jeff Bezos is now boarding.
I think this week he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Lift off.
Branson beat him to it, though.
That was too funny. Bezos is like, mine's different.
I mean,
No.
Brent was born before him too, so.
Yeah. Chronological.
Yeah.
I still think they should have put Boris Johnson on the first flight.
Billionaire race, space race.
Now notice on the right-hand layer, that top layer is a special layer which has DCAs. And instead of showing an input channel, remember DCAs, I told you, they're just like remote controls for a group of faders. So there's no signal going through them. So all it shows you is what faders they're controlling. That's what the status shows.
So the members of the drum bass DCA are kick in, kick out, snare, hats, rack. So
Yep. So this fader controls all of those.
Got
So
it.
I'll get a nice mix on the drums, and then I got one knob to turn the whole.
you can turn it
set.
all up and down. Gotcha.
It's very nice.
Guitars.
So I found myself
Ah.
mixing mostly with those faders, but I had the vocal layer on top because you guys kept singing strongly and quietly and driving me crazy. And that's
So obviously in ears, like on Sunday, we weren't dialed in with our connection out there. We were asking you to make the adjustments. You
Yes.
would do that within here.
Yes, I'll show you how. But that's not how. But I'll show you how.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah, this has some very cool functionality that helps.
Plate, long but
So that's the effects send
Yep.
layer. Okay. There's the effects return layer, and you'll notice that it's got an EQ on it.
mm-hmm.
You notice we rolled off all the low end and all that stuff. So that's that special transition layer that I started to build. So touch something to, no, don't touch those things on the right.
Come on.
Do not touch those. Not yet.
There's bass EQ, and you have a
I've got it all flat right now.
yeah.
Okay, because we're going to try and make it sound good. At the end of the session today, I'll pull up the way that I had it mixed, and you guys can hear what you actually sounded like, which is a real gift because normally you never get to hear
No
that.
idea.
Just
Hope they did okay.
so that you put compression on here. I'm looking at mine.
Well, if you're, specifically, you'll notice compression is off at
Off.
the moment. Okay.
Okay.
It happens to be set to something, but it's turned off.
It's turned off. Gotcha.
Oh, jean jacket.
Is everybody
Vocals, preach.
Oh, I feel like we're at a giant church right now.
Reagan, touch the board, please.
Next.
Your button.
Go learn.
Time to learn.
Yeah, hold on.
School starts now.
Yeah, school starts at 6:30 Monday nights.
Oh, the kick in, kick out.
Go ahead and touch the screen, like the EQ. So the EQ curve
Yeah.
would be like that.
Mhm.
Go ahead. That's compressor. But notice,
Yeah, no,
you
the
can
compressor, yep, up
actually
there.
select it
Preamp
from
and
this
stuff.
level as well. So it's got, the thing that's cool about this board is everywhere, pretty much everywhere where you'd expect a menu item to be able to select something, it's actually there. It's really intuitive. So what I was just showing him is that you might want to access the EQ directly on the screen because you're fiddling with that, and then you decide, I need to do the compressor. Well, right across the top, there's a menu item for the compressor. You don't have to back out and then go back in.
It's all in there.
Yeah. it's very well designed that way.
So really each item you touch also has multifunction
There's,
capabilities to get into it.
yeah, there's
Routing.
there can be layers behind, so. Okay, you broke it.
I did break it.
Control Z.
It's always the guy with long hair that messes things up.
Well, he gotta be the one to mess with it.
Let's tap on this.
So when you touch the, where Klaus was just touching, which is the name, that just activates the strip, which,
Yeah.
trying to think, I don't think that has a particular function unless you choose something within the strip.
Okay, oh, you can change it.
Remember.
There's a couple things you can do. That's probably,
Touch it.
yeah, should I? Should I touch
Do
the
it,
pan?
go ahead.
Touch it.
Yeah, I don't want to be the only one.
So if you,
Can I do anything?
can you turn this? Let me see, it's,
Oh, see, now you're going outside the box here.
yeah, yeah.
You can touch the knob.
You can't turn the knob.
Don't touch the knobs,
The
man.
screen.
All right.
There you go.
This all started with
And that,
touch
yeah.
the switch.
all right. I was here watching, Thursday for
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
Terry and Matt. It was,
Klaus has to jump on you guys,
Yeah.
actually.
it's pretty cool. Yeah, I've seen a lot. I just need to go through the videos now, I think.
Yeah.
More.
There's
Yeah,
a
that's-
whole bunch of great videos on the Alan Heath website for this, and they're only like 3 minutes long.
So you can actually
So
comprehend
all
while falling
Yeah.
asleep.
Well, yeah.
It's on their website.
Yeah, I don't recommend you binge them, but they're really specific how to test it. But then they get into subjects that you don't have to concern yourselves with, like routing, stuff like that. That's all set up, and you'll never have to fiddle with it.
By looking at the screen. I think she was looking at the lights.
Yeah.
So this is going to be very similar to the app on your computer. Well, the screen's identical, all right? It's just that it's much more intuitive to actually touch it than to move the mouse around. And the screen's bigger and blah, blah, blah. Oh, what did you get into?
Game.
Oh, yeah, ganging. Yeah, you touched on the left. You're not supposed to do that. I can do what I want.
Drummers.
Cool. All right, so everybody's had a turn to do that. Oh, there you go. Bang.
There we go.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yay.
All right. All right, let's spend some time now. Let me see if there's anything here. So, if you guys noticed on the top layer on the right-hand side, we've got these DCA groups. We've got drums, but we've also got a percussion layer. So against the day when we have both, or even just percussion and not drums, we can turn all the percussion up and down here. We can turn all the guitars up and down here. The keyboards and the tracks are together. I didn't like that very much. I also didn't like the bass with the drums, because I really wanted to push the drums, and then the bass would get overwhelming. I might break that out. And then we've got a couple
I'd like
here.
my own DCA, please.
We'll talk about that.
Don't get it? Don't get it if you don't ask.
You don't need a DCA if it's muted.
And you can mute them.
Bass player too.
You can mute them. And then we've got 2 that I spent a lot of time on, the entire band and all the vocals. So that's a really nice one. You get a nice vocal blend, you get a nice band blend going, and you just kind of ride these guys. So what is that song? I thought the world, right? There were all these, and I pushed the band every time you guys did that, and I pull it back for the vocals and then push it again. Give it some power, Okay. Also over here, we've got a group that's all the effects and one that's just delay. And right here, you'll notice this little flashy thing. That is the tempo of the delay. So every time a song starts, as soon as I can register the beat, I'm tapping it in to here. Now, sometimes I'll do it in quarter notes, and sometimes I'll do it in half notes if I really want this big canyon thing going on. And also down here in the lower right-hand corner, and this is going to be a sort of an advanced thing, we've got the on-off for that guy. This talks to everybody's monitors in their ears. So you push that, and now I'm talking into their in-ear monitors. Let go, I'm not anymore. Okay? So if we're doing a sound check, and I want to hear kick drum, I can just go, Brian, give me some kick, please, and don't stop till I say you can.
Not to be a diva, but when you do that, please put your mouth as close to the
Yeah.
microphone as you can.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can't really hear it.
Yeah, I'm thinking we might want to put that mic over here.
That might be good.
I really
Which is right next to you.
But anyway, that's what that's for. Just so you know that it exists, we won't use it for a little while yet. So,
To get it dialed in, are you mostly adjusting the DCAs during the song?
yes, once you get tonality dialed in, mostly you're adjusting levels. And then once, usually at the beginning of a song, you have to go in and, especially on the vocal layer, you gotta, like we could actually, once we get this dialed in, honestly, we'll probably spend 2 or 3 sessions with this mix getting things dialed in. Then we'll actually try and live mix it, because it's the real deal. So you'll have to dynamically change the vocal levels and stuff like that to get a nice vocal blend.
So Matt, let's just say, let's run this DCA thing.
Mhm.
The DCAs are set at 0.
More or less.
Ish.
Ish.
Assume that they are.
Yep.
If I go over to the left and let's say I want to push vocal 2 and 3
Yeah.
because I can't hear them,
Yeah.
does that automatically then, that's automatically adjusted in the DCA without having to,
Well, remember, the DCA is simply a remote control
for all of those?
for all of these.
I get, that's my question, is
Right.
that once you make that change over there, it's automatically in the DCA?
Yeah, it's reflected. It's reflected underneath.
Underneath,
right?
yeah, the
So
layer.
right now they're at 0. I can turn this up and down, and you're not going to hear anything.
Right.
But if I put
Okay.
Christina up, then that'll turn Christina up and down, but these guys still won't
Got
be
it.
heard, right? So you can get a nice blend together over here, and then turn the blend up and down, right? And that's the way they all work.
This is, sorry, were you done?
No, sorry.
This is not gonna be like with the other app where you have the different, you can put people's names in. It's always just gonna be vocal 1, 2, 3.
No. That's what these layers are. Okay? So there is a layer here. Well, actually, the layer that I started playing with was blank. So one of the things that I did on the app on the Android thing when I was mixing in the gym was every Saturday during rehearsal, I'd say, what do we have for inputs? And I'd throw away whatever I didn't need, and I'd put what I needed on the screen. And the screen, I could see 18 faders on my little screen. And it allowed me to just tweak the faders that I needed. This actually has that capability. You can create a screen, but it's only 12 wide. But we got this side too, and we got actually 8 available on this side too. So you could actually create a layer that's got 20 faders on it, all right? But I found in mixing during the week and then on Sunday that I didn't miss that functionality because of the way that the DCAs are set up. So when I did it, I would create one DCA for the drums, and then I'd just manually mix everything else. But because we've got so much room for so many DCAs, we've got 24 faders here, and we got all the layers, and the layers are pretty quick to get to, right? It was pretty intuitive to just do it this way. Your mileage may vary, but and I can show you, if you so desire, I can show you how to set up your own custom layers. It's not difficult.
How do you keep track of, like, if it's just labeled mic 1, 2, 3, 4, how do you keep track of who is what on stage if you don't know all the musicians by name? Or
Well,
like if you don't know who is who and you don't
well,
know
that-
even how to rename?
Yeah, that's an outside of this particular mixer question, and but it's legitimate. I try to physically have left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the way I do it. But what if they wander around? and also, you know, if I'm mixing a show where there's multiple bands and there's a big changeover, big complex changeover, and all of a sudden mic 3 is mic 2, you know, then it gets interesting.
Or if we have different people lead different songs,
Right.
which
Well,
we've
'cause
done before.
I mean, it's normally like year
Like, we
one,
normally
and
rename it to like Nathan Box or I'll be Box 1, but I think
like is that what we're?
Can we
Like
can we change the name of that?
process-wise-
Oh, yeah.
Quite easily.
Oh, yeah. Well, easily.
Easily,
Let's
that's-
see. You'd think, you'd think you could touch right here and do it, but you can't. I think
Can
you
do
gotta
it
go
on the
into
iPad,
setup.
app?
I think you gotta go and set up somewhere.
You could put masking tape. Sharpie everyone's name.
Yeah.
Old school.
Markers and tape, yeah.
Are the inputs like on stage? Is it intuitive? Like, are they labeled so you know? I mean, this is again a tangent, but like, you, if something was switched around, can you easily figure out like an XLR input in those boxes is like channel whatever, and you can find it on here pretty.
Yeah,
quick?
okay. Yeah, the way that works, that's a really good question. Hopefully you will not have to deal with it early on, but it's bound to happen someday. Probably not on the drums. They'll remain pretty static. But the answer is that it's entirely flexible, okay? Which can work against us. But the inputs up there are numbered, and those numbers reflect the inputs on the I.O. box that's back in the closet. So that there's an I.O. box that's back in the closet that has a bunch of mic inputs on it, 48 of them, right? I think it's 48.
I think so.
And so on the left-hand side, when I first walked in to play with the mixer, it was set up so that kick was input 1, snare was 2, or kick in was 1, kick out was, we don't have a kick out, but we have room for it. 2 mics on the kick, that's what that's for. Snare, you know, like that, numerically like that. And that box over by the drum kit is numbers like 40 through 48 or something. So I knew that it wasn't going to fly. So if you have a look here, there is, in this little flashy box here, and you guys should know this, there are choices for what gets displayed. If you guys can't see, I need you to see this. There are choices of what can be displayed. You're filming my elbow probably. The choices of what can be displayed in the identification strip. Whoops, I don't want help. So that's this item that's one from the bottom. So you can touch it and it'll show you. It's saying that it's showing you I.O. information, and you can see that it's in channel 33 up there.
Okay.
That's what it's looking for.
Okay.
All right? You can touch it again, and it just shows the name. Touch it again, and it shows the decibel level. So it's at minus 37.4 decibels. If you bring it up here, it'll be like at 0, right? See that moving?
Mm-hmm.
And I.O. But if you move the faders, it automatically jumps to show a decibel display, and then it switches back to the input.
Is that within where you could change it from kick in to Brian's foot? I mean,
Yeah.
You could change the name in that?
No. I
That's
was just
somewhere else.
looking for it. I couldn't find it just
Okay.
now. All right. So that is, intuitively, that should be behind here, and it's not. So that's one place where they dropped the ball. I think it's in setup somewhere, but if you're brave and you get into setup, I mean, there are menus upon menus in setup because there's a lot to set up. But you can explore that in your app at home, okay? Not here, please.
Are we thinking that we're gonna just leave it as it is? Like if you have
Yes.
2 electric guitars,
Yes.
it'll just be known that like
Yeah, you can see.
however we set it up, but like
If you look at the instrument layer, we've got room for 2 stereo electric guitars and 2 acoustics simultaneously. Only 1 set of keys, though. Interesting, because sometimes at the band shell you threw 2
Probably
sets of
gonna
keys.
get to the point where we're using 2. It
Yeah,
seems like, at
yeah.
some point here, so.
So this might have to be tweaked a little bit. Okay.
I'll just tell you where I plug them in.
Yeah. That's a good question. But we've tried to anticipate what we're going to need in the near future at least, all right? And you can have a look at the way the strips are labeled here if you have to plug something new in up there. There are boxes all over the stage. I haven't even looked at that yet, really, except for the drum one. And you just open them up and you can see a bunch of mic cable connectors, right? And they're all numbered. So if you got a secondary keyboard in here, let's say you want to put it in on 31 and 32 here. 31 and 32 aren't even patched, are they? Unassigned. So you'd have to go into the menus in here and choose an input that you plug those into. Let's say you plugged them into 31 and 32, for argument's sake, and then do a patch here. But we don't have to get into that. You know, and hopefully I'll still be around when we do that. You're not going to fire me, are you? Okay.
Depends on how good you do here.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before we start actually tweaking sounds? Oh, I've got one more thing to show you here. 2 more things. So the actual physical, okay, 7 more things. The actual physical controls that you see here, right? Fader's obviously what that does, right? This group of knobs here along the top, these are controlled by these 3 buttons in the middle. If the button on the left is selected, that's the pan. So it controls, excuse me, that is not the pan. That is the trim. So it controls the actual level of the input, right? Remember, that's the first thing. When someone starts making noise, you adjust the volume level of the actual amplifier that's sitting right behind the connector that the microphone is connected into. That's what this is initially set up to do. Okay.
Can you talk the difference between trim and gain?
Yeah. Okay. Right now it's controlling trim because I have it set up in this artificial environment where it's actually going to be getting the sounds from here. It's bypassing that amplifier. So all I can do is set the volume of what's coming in. All right. But conceptually, that's similar to what happens when you actually have something really truly coming in the inputs. You're setting the volume of an amplifier, and that's called the gain. You can have it at 0, that means it's not amplifying anything at all. You can turn it up to amplify the microphone. If you've got keyboards coming in, it's probably not going to be turned up very much, stuff like that.
So
Okay.
for a normal live situation, that far left button in the center is going to be our gain. Is that right?
This is going to be gain, yeah.
Okay, it's trimmed now just because you have your computer set
It's
up.
trimmed now because
So
I have a
normally
computer.
it's that-
Yes,
that would be our
but if you
gain.
touch the head end section in the strip, you'll see. Well, let's see. Yeah, it's not. Normally, you'll see a trim adjustment in this here, and a gain adjustment, and you'll also see the trim adjustment. They're both available to you when you're using the real inputs. But we're inputting from the computer over the network, so the actual gain one is not available right now. Okay, that was a good
So that's
question.
the thing that you say you do first
Yeah.
because you don't want.
So we got Brian hitting his kick here, except when he stops. There we go. If you look,
Excellent job.
yes.
Consistency.
That's kind of the initial level, right? You can see it here, it actually doing it. And you can see that it goes into the red when I turn it up all the way like that. So we don't want it there. So this is something that you need to do. Is something that you need to do all the time, except it's not advisable to do once the show starts because it affects what they're hearing in their ears. But before the show starts, you have to set all the gains for everybody right away So they give you physical access to that by using these knobs. Notice some of them are dark and some of them are green. The dark ones mean the dark ones mean that there is no input coming into that channel at all. Oh, that's interesting. I just noticed that he did not assign any channels to cajon and hand percussion. So when we use those, we're going to have to
We'll have to patch them.
patch them. Okay. Yes.
And so, way when I was a baby sound mixer, we would
Yeah.
just gain it until it hit the red and it was good. Like
No.
before it hit the red? Like you don't
Before,
want it to hit
before,
the red.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, remember, we talked about gain a little bit, and there's two philosophies behind that.
Yeah.
So Terry uses the same philosophy I do, which is have the drummer play the kick drum and adjust it so that it bounces right up to that yellow bit and then back it off just a little.
So that little bar across. That
Yeah, you see,
changes?
okay, yeah, let me see. It's not gonna, okay. Normally when you swipe that, it gives you a VU meter that you can see, but you can see that that the VU meter is yellow sometimes. See that? It went yellow,
Yep.
and then of course it can make it red too.
Okay.
And the whole thing turns red when it, and notice, look, this is another features that isn't in the manuals, but this tells you on this layer, don't you like that? This layer, something is going into the red, so you punch that and you can see what it is and maybe tweak it. That is real nice,
I
isn't
like
it?
that.
Warning, warning.
Yes, danger, Will Robinson.
So we want it like just below yellow? Is that what?
Yeah, no, that's the one philosophy, and I think that's the one we'll use, okay, because the board is kind of set up that way. The other philosophy is to turn the system up to the level you think you're going to be running it at, and adjust this until it's to the volume you want it to be when you're running the system, no matter what the input is, as long as it's below red, and it's usually way below red. And this gives you a lot of mobility. It gives you a lot of adjustment capability with the fader, a lot more than when you just maximize it. But I like it to be more responsive than that. I like it to do a lot when I hit it. That other way, you have to move it a lot for it to do something. Okay, that's what the sound man in the park, the guy I use in the park, that's the way he sets the board up. So I have to be able to do it both ways. But okay, so that's how you set the input gain. So this is something that Terry was actually really surprised about. This kick drum mic that I specified, they specified something else. And I said, no, I want this. And it was more expensive. I think maybe they were trying to save us a little bit of money too, but they weren't familiar with it. It just sounds really good right away. I have nothing going on that kick drum at all. And you can hear the snap and you can hear the thump. It just sounds good. So that makes our job a lot easier. However, so I would do something like this. Turn up the gain till it bounces a little bit into the yellow like that. Then maybe back it off a little bit. And especially during rehearsal and sound check, they always play quieter than they really do. Always, always. Everybody does. I do it too, okay? So you can keep that in mind. But this board is nice because it has a lot of headroom. We talked about headroom. Remember what that is? There's a lot of headroom. As a matter of fact, you heard me redlining the board and you did not hear distortion. But it's not nice to do that. All right. There's other issues with that. Now, what I don't like about the kick at this point in time is, honestly, when I get everything else going, this is with all the faders at 0, meaning, in theory, this is as loud as it would be no matter what. I might do something like that. But even that's probably what I'd be mixing it at. But there's no room to go higher than that. So one of the things that I would do probably is, and right there, you heard the kick got quieter and then loud again. Typically in a rock and roll mix, you don't want that to happen. That happens when drummers try and get faster, their foot gets a little weaker, you know. You want that to be as consistent as you can be. How do we do that? What processor would we use that to do that? Pardon me?
Compressor.
Compression?
Yes. Compressor. Okay. So where does the compressor live?
Yes.
Anybody want to take a guess which thing to touch, ladies?
The button under it.
No, I have no clue.
Touch the channel, and then
No idea.
it should be at the top.
Somewhere here, probably.
Yeah.
Or down here.
Right. So we're in the kick drum channel. This is the compressor, and you can see it's actually set to do something, but it's turned off. Okay, everybody take a look at that screen. You can see that the compressor is actually trying to do something, but it's grayed out and it's turned off. This thing along the bottom is called a histogram, and that tells you what it actually did in the past. That's a really handy thing. You can tell it's actually doing some work. That's kind of a new feature on digital mixers. So let's kick it in. And now it's making it a lot more consistent. But for my taste, I think it feels a little quiet to me. So what we can do is remember compressors have a makeup gain on the output, right? So we can actually turn things up after it comes out of the compressor. There it is, gain. So intuitively, how would you change the gain? If you were standing in front of this mixer and someone said, change the gain on that.
Hit that button.
Hit the gain. And look at this. This little knob lights up. Now this knob is attached to the gain. Isn't that cool? And you can do this. So now, if we can get them to play kick again. Let's get them, wait till that.
Sharpens it up a little bit.
Yeah. But notice it changes the tonality quite a bit. We're hearing a lot more top end. This is not unusual. Compressors usually change tonality a bit, so that's why you got to be careful using them. But okay, so that's a little weak. I'm going to show you something about this mixer. So we got it like loud enough, but it's a little wimpy. We like the snap, it's going to cut through well, but it's wimpy. Well, where do we get the thump from in this system? We get it from the subwoofers under the stage. That's a separate mix, right? Okay, well, how do I adjust the amount of kick drum that I want to send to the subwoofers? This is really cool. See this blue button here? It says mix on it. Notice that right now, it's this, they call the mains gas. I probably got to change that. But anyway, that means that the faders on the panel that I'm adjusting the main mix. I'm adjusting the mix to the house, like you'd expect. But look at this. I can touch subs, and now this is the mix that's going to the subs. Okay? So I can say I want more thump. So this gives me an additional tone control, as it were. Now I got more sub in that. That's a pretty nice sounding kick. I don't like how it resonates a little bit. Okay? So So remember how I was railing against gates, and then I changed my mind. And it's because, okay, in my defense, the gates that I've always used historically were external boxes, and they just sounded terrible. No one ever, unless you spent $1,000 on one, for one channel, they never sounded good. These gates sound good all the time. So I'm not so scared of them anymore. So here is the gate for the kick drum. And maybe we can use it. I'm not sure if this will work or not, but maybe we can use it to control that resonance. Let's see, that's what gates, that's the thing I don't like about gates, is it starts to do funny stuff like that. This might be an extreme case where we can't really use the gate. Okay. There. It's starting to sound a little better. But you can actually, now if you look at the channel display, you can see in the channel display itself that what the gate is doing and what the compressor is doing without having to open it up and have a look, okay? So, like I say, I'm not sure about the use of the gate for that. I mean, it sounds better, but
Still feels like it's bouncing.
so there's without the gate. There's with the gate. It tightens it up a little bit, but I'm not sure I like the side effects of it. Now another way to do it, possibly. Oh, we've already got it. Yeah. We've kind of applied. We've kind of applied all the tools that we've got in our toolkit at the moment. So.
Do you do anything with EQ on it?
Well, anything you're going to do with EQ on that low end is going to subtract from the low end. I mean, yes, there's some EQ that we need to do, I think. Although I think it sounds pretty good right out of the chute. But there are two things on this compressor. Remember I talked about side chaining compressors? I said you probably won't do it. I changed my mind again. Because there's a method of using side chains that is pretty interesting. And basically it gives you a finer control over how the compressor reacts. So if you side chain the compressor from its own self, okay, you're using, like on the kick drum, normally the compressor looks at the kick drum signal and decides it's too loud, I want to pull it down, according to the way you've got it set, right? Well, you can actually put a filter on the kick drum. So you say, I want you to pay attention only to between 50 and 100 hertz, and I only want you to pull it down if you see that, but let everything else through without compressing, okay? I have to experiment with that to hear the effect. And secondarily, I don't know if I mentioned this, but because I didn't think you'd have the capability in this box, but you do, and that is something called parallel compression, where you set up the compressor, signal's coming in, and the compressor's doing its thing, and then the signal goes out. In parallel compression, you've got that path, but you've also got a path that has the original signal, and you can mix it back in with the compressed signal. That's a very handy thing to do tonal things to it. And basically, we've got parallel compression on almost everything on here. So
Do you control like the dry-wet mix then?
Yes, that's exactly what happens. So you can control the mix between what is being compressed and what is not. And there's a very clever thing that he did where he set up an aux bus that he sent all the drums to. And then he set up the output channel for the aux bus so that you could actually compress it and compress the entire drum set and then mix that in with the live sound. And what that does is it fattens up the drums tremendously, okay? And I used that a whole bunch on Sunday morning, a whole bunch. Because the way that he originally set the board up and set the mix up, the drums, it was a much more typical like worship kind of drum thing where it was really light on the drums. And I didn't like it, so I used it's on layer 5 on the right-hand side, and it's called Drum Smack, okay? And right now I think I've got it disengaged, but you turn this up. No, it's engaged. But you turn this up, you got the nice drum blend, you turn it up, and you got the drummer playing, and you turn the drum smack up, and all of a sudden the drums kind of go from being all these individual things to being this one thing that's really cool, right? It kind of blends them all together. So it feels like one instrument instead of 3 or 4 drums. It sounds like one thing. And that's a really nice thing, and it's a clever thing to do that I'd never seen before. Remember, you can always learn from somebody else, always. All right, so does somebody want to try their hand at making something sound good? like if I pull up the snare, the kick already sounds pretty good. Like, okay, let me finish out the kick, just so you guys can observe like navigation and stuff a little bit and get a little confidence in that. But so I would probably go into EQ, and I might get a little more thump going here. A lot of times one approach, if you're looking for a problem frequency, is to actually turn up until you hear the thing you don't like very much, and then pull it back. There. That cleaned up a bunch of that resonance going on in the room. So if we take the EQ out, that's without it. Ooh, I don't like that. Pull this back.
Can you turn EQ on and off?
Yep, that's what I just did. It's on right now.
Got it.
It's off right now.
Got it.
All right?
And that's for each one of those functions, you can do that.
For every one of them.
Yeah.
So be very aware of that, because I have found myself tweaking EQ furiously and going, what's wrong, what's wrong? And then, oh, I don't have it turned on. And I turn it on and it's all squirrely. and I gotta jump, you know. So it's typical, you know, to lose a bunch at about 250. But honestly, I'm not hearing anything that makes much of a difference that I care about. Something that Terry did was on absolutely everything. He pulled out 250, everything. He just automatically went in there and did it. Guitars, everything. And I normally leave those flat. And you know, it sounded good. But I would probably, a lot of times I even give a little boost to the guitars at 250. So your guitar sounded just really bright and thin, which was okay because we had Nathan's guitar occupying that low end. But if you were the only thing up there and it was just Nathan on acoustic, which is a combination, I'd probably juice your low mids to get some more throatiness out of your guitar. But let's go over. Okay, I'll do one for you. Let's see if we can find some toms here. No.
I'll play the tops.
A lot of sounds right in the beginning.
Yeah, there
All
are.
toms.
Let's make a loop
All toms don't break.
there.
I'll guess them.
And let's turn on loop. Now we'll see. Okay.
Okay, you're on the sub mix, right?
No, I'm on kick drum mix, so you can actually hear the toms through the kick
but you're
drum.
on the sub mix.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Thank you. That's a very easy way to screw yourself at this board. So there's the floor tom. It's got a lot of problems. Okay.
Exactly what that is.
So the first thing, what do you think the first thing is that we should do with this?
Pull out the really low.
That, yeah, you're.
The high pass
I-
filter? Is that-
Well,
or no?
it's really nice to have those low frequencies there, but it's ringing. It's like whoop, whoop, whoop the whole time. You can't. If it weren't for that snap that you're hearing, you wouldn't even know where the notes begin, right?
Yeah.
The gate. Whoops, that's the kick drum. Sorry. We kick in the gate here.
Change.
Mute, mute, mute.
Okay. So we've improved it a little bit. All right, but there's still too much low frequency information, right? It's too woolly. So anytime you hear something, and this commonly happens on toms especially, and sometimes on snares, anytime you hear a note ringing too long, go for that gate. All right? And we've got a threshold and a depth, but this graph kind of tells the whole story. It's a linear response above a certain level, and then it turns the gain down hard anywhere in this range, and then it lets things a little bit loose on the bottom end, right? And then you've got releases and hold times and attack times, and you might fiddle with that. And then here's the histogram. It's actually turning it completely off. So I wonder why we hear sound after it's turned off. I don't have an explanation for that, and I'd like to get to the bottom of it. It could be, let's check this sub mix. So we've got a lot of sub send there.
Verb on it?
There is verb on it. Do I have the verb turned up? Yes. That's not it. That's not what's going on though. So let's go over to EQ. And there is I think I might like to kick the low pass filter up a bit. And then I increase the smack a little bit. It's usually around 4K. What is that? It's 2K right now. Now that's a little bit exaggerated, but remember that once you throw it in with the whole band, you need that exaggeration. Sometimes, not always, sometimes. I don't know. Compression. Now it's starting to be a little bit more under control. All right. Somebody want to try making the snare sound good? Anybody want to try that?
Or if you tune it different.
Micah said he would.
Easier.
Micah's in.
Throw a mood
Micah's
down.
Micah's go make the snare work.
Micah, you're up. Make the snare sound good, man.
We were just talking about we're just gonna solve all the issues and just tune better. So that way we
start
don't
at the
have,
source.
That way we don't have to. Yeah, starting at the source.
Let's find a place where there's lots of snare going on here. Make a loop for that. Let's see, what is this? Is this some kind of rule?
Arcade band.
Okay, that's a good place. Okay.
The fat snare. Like a deep.
Okay, there's something wrong. There's something wrong here because I pulled down the effects and nothing happens. So it might be because of the funny mode we're in order to do this teaching session. So I'm gonna go over here to where I'm sending. This is the send to the effects. And I turn it down. There it is. There's the real snare. Okay. I'll guide you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So we're gonna go to
So
snare
let's see. Yeah.
because we're gonna start there, obviously.
Yep.
And we're a little too hot, right? So we just turn it down a little bit because he's doing that.
Yeah, especially
Just a tiny bit.
if this is sound check. Especially if this is sound check.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Because Brian always gets super loud.
Yeah.
Oh, no, stop. Yeah, just like right there. So I'd leave that there. That's
I
not
would
loud.
actually juice it a little more.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
Right there. So
Okay.
like one or two of the yellow bars
Yeah.
is good.
Now, as far as,
Sue can't see.
pardon me? Oh,
Can you just narrate what you're doing?
yeah.
Step back.
Yeah, so
Just so we
he's changing the input gain to be something that just bumps it up into the yellow. Okay?
2 bars.
Yep. Now,
Sometimes
why don't
one.
you,
He's very consistent.
why don't you select the gate? That's, nope,
Nope.
that's not
Nope.
the gate.
Nope.
That's, looks like it is. That's that one.
one, yeah. All right, I knew it was one of the two.
Nope, that's not the
No.
gate either.
I thought I hit it.
It's right underneath it. That graph, right underneath it, that one.
Oh, that's what I thought I just hit.
Well,
Didn't I hit it?
you accidentally hit,
Oh,
hit
I'm just not
above it.
coordinated. Got it.
Okay, so it happens to be, the gate happens to be set up from the previous sound check. It's just not engaged. Go ahead and engage it, see what it does. Now what it does, it tightens it up just a little bit.
It
Did you
does.
hear that?
Yep. Mhm.
Out? It'll loop again, just a second. That's not, that's width.
Yeah,
Hear
definitely.
the
can feel it.
difference?
Mhm.
Tightened up just a little bit. Also, gates prevent the bleed from the other drums to make it into that mic too, all right? Because it exaggerates the turning down part. So that you can see in the histogram that it's turning down, right? Okay, why don't you go, the next thing I would probably do is, I like to do EQ. As far as, okay, you got a filter. Oh, now what do we want to do with snare drum? Actually, basically everything except kick and bass and keys.
The high pass filter.
High pass filter,
Mhm,
right?
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just hit see that little dot there?
Mhm.
Pull that to the right.
Okay.
What does the frequency say down there?
Oh, that's the frequency.
Yep. What does it say?
It says 63 now.
Yeah, but you're not gonna probably have anything below 100, I would say, on a snare. If you hear the tone starting to change, back off. But something like that's probably pretty safe. 100 hertz in the high pass filter. So you're thinning it out.
Yeah. I just wanted to hear the difference.
That's good. Experiment. That's a
But
really
yeah, that
good
makes
thing.
sense. Yeah, when it gets in, so about
Okay.
100. Yep.
Okay. Now let's go over to the EQ. That's right. Good intuition. Now, what do you like and not like about the snare?
He's a little bit more attack, like the sound when he hits the head, or I would do a little bit more of that.
A little more attack?
What's
Okay,
the right word I'm
that's,
looking for?
what about let's talk about the tone, just the tone itself. Is
It's
it
very dark,
dark.
so I'd bring it up a little
You
bit.
want to brighten it up?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
So I would probably, in order to brighten it up, I might use one of those 2 right-hand dots. Actually, there's 3, but and just get extreme.
Ooh.
Move it left
Ooh,
and right.
oh, not that. Don't like that either. Sounds like a Blink-182 song.
All right. Well, here's something you can do. Pull that back again. Make it flat, and look at the shape. You're doing a. Right now, he's doing a bell curve shape. Let's do one of the. I forgot what they're called, but the one.
It's like a tuning fork.
Shelf. Thank you. Okay, now that's juicing everything about that.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I would normally
I like
do.
that better.
Yeah.
Yes, much
So
better.
do I.
Yes.
So do I.
So the shelf on that one
Now,
instead
what
of
about
the bell curve.
what about the middle? You like that? You like it? Is it too meaty? Is it? And this is your taste now. Okay. There's no right or wrong answer.
What do you say?
We like meat back here where
Ooh,
more
nope.
meat doesn't preferably smoked.
So he's taking the low,
Just going extreme,
the low
yeah.
mids and jerking them around.
This is like nothing. Oh, I sang it.
It'll loop
Yeah,
back.
it'll be. I'm not happy with it. Not really happy with either of those. Nope. How do you do this so quickly? This would take me 30 minutes just to get this right.
I do it so quickly because I've been doing it for 25 years.
25 years later.
So like,
But here's a syndrome that you can fall into. This is a really good object lesson. You can go down a rabbit hole really easily here. If you're, Mike is a drummer. He's got something in mind. Maybe he doesn't have something in mind. Maybe it's just like, let's try this, let's try that. Oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. It's important to sort of self-limit, especially when you're dealing with a bunch of guys on stage and a limited time frame, right? In the studio, it's your life, man. Do with it what you want, But here, you've got to kind of go, okay, well, for purposes of the sound check, I think this is pretty darn close. Let's get the band going and see how it sits with the band. If it's not cutting, or if it doesn't have body once the band is cranking, let's go back and tweak it. But so my personal thing is, I would have just left that sitting. I think that sounds pretty decent. Okay, but I'd go over to the compressor and just throw a little compression on it. So turn it on, just to make sure that it's consistent. Like, actually, there was a little bit of a tonal change.
yeah,
Did
there
you hear that?
definitely was. Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I was like, what do you mean change?
You're getting a little bit more of attack.
Yeah.
Which is what you wanted.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Right?
Absolutely.
So when you
Love that
said
initial
attack, I was going to direct you to the compressor, but I
Yeah.
wanted to do EQ first.
Okay.
So remember what I said. One use of compressors is to have them compress a fair amount, but have the attack be slow so that that first transient gets through. And that's what we're hearing, the difference, right? And then I might gain it up. Yeah, so touch that gain. Okay, yeah, if you want more smack, you would actually turn that up.
That's what I was just going to screw around with.
But remember, it's attached to this knob, too.
Oh, that's right. Yep, I forget about it.
So that's less. That's less.
Yeah.
And that's
The
almost
curve.
linear.
Yeah,
there.
linear.
And that's flat.
Ew,
So that's a
no.
limiter.
Yeah, we don't, yeah. Actually, I like it higher. Oh.
Like to open it up
I
a little
did,
bit?
yeah. I like it right there.
Well, that's nice.
I
all
like
by,
that.
Okay, that's nice all by itself.
Yeah.
It might not work in the mix. You got to be open to that
yeah.
idea. I'm not saying.
Finally found a sound I like, guys.
I'm not passing judgment here. Okay.
But he said I'm terrible.
No, but all I'm saying is you work with the individual things,
Yeah.
and then you try and get the whole kit together, and then you add the band elements, especially bass would be next. So the lesson in my syllabus, what I had going, okay, we're getting closer to the end here. So in my syllabus, what I had for today was sound check and sort of order of things. That's what we're just doing practically here. Kit first, left to right, kick, snare, hat. Hats are easy, et cetera, et cetera. So what we'll do, well, I want to do two things here. First of all, I want to show you what this mix sounds like unprocessed with all the faders at 0. So let me turn off all the stuff we just did here. Turn that off. And let's see here. Did I do anything over here? Yeah, got that on to turn that off. So let's just turn the faders up to 0 for all this stuff. So you can hear what the input sounds like just all by itself. And what a dramatic difference. Because I've got the mix that I did, I've got it saved as a scene. We didn't talk much about that, but once you get things dialed in, you're going to be able to create your own scenes and save them. So, Micah's favorite drum mix. Okay? All right. So, if I did this right. Sounds like a bunch of mud with a big vocal on top, right? So let me see if I can recall my scene here. And go, yes. All right, looks like everything woke up. Now the actual level of the faders is not going to be right, but let's see what we've got when we start here. Whoops. Okay, it's got this funny loop function going on, sorry. So this song especially was a little bit tricky to mix because he's down here with no power and then bam! Okay, so this is his vocal. You have to really push it. there was also a transition between song 2 and song 3. Christina took over, and I had to really juice her because she was singing in her soft voice at the beginning. Then I had to really pull her back because she let it loose later. And there was these beautiful 3-part harmonies, but if I didn't adjust it right, Nathan just dominated that, and Bethany got lost. Yeah, so it especially on vocals, it tends to be really dynamic. So these layers worked really well for me the first Sunday. I have one data point, Sunday, but I'm thinking it's going to be pretty good with some minor adjustments going forward. So that's lesson 1. There are online videos if you want to start poking through those. They're about 3 to 5 minutes each.
On their website, yeah.
On their website, they're real good, and they're nice bite-sized chunks. And you've got the app. Now that you've seen this physical surface, you can actually navigate through the app in a really similar way to touching the touchscreen just with your mouse.
In demo mode, right? Yep.
Yeah, in demo mode.
And then our computer that mimics this as well. Would you be able to send us that mix and we could play around with that on our computer?
Oh, that's an interesting thought. Yeah. Yeah. I
So
could.
like you send us home.
I'll give you. This is a lot of data, so I'll probably chop it up into maybe
Then we
individual
can.
songs. That's a great idea.
We can practice what we kind of did tonight on our computers,
Yeah.
not on our app.
In your DAWs.
In our DAWs.
Yeah. But when we were talking about app, I meant the app on the computer that emulates this, not the iPad app.
Right.
The iPad app's not that great. Okay, now power down sequence. I think what you have to do here.
We don't just pull the plug?
No, you do not. And you don't just flip the switch either. I found that out the hard way. It just yelled at me. So you go into utility here, and there's a status tab on the top. So utility on the right-hand side menu. These menus over here I told you not to touch, feel free to explore those in your app on your computer and see what the functionalities are. Okay? Sorry, you guys. But if you touch utility and status, you can see over on the right-hand side here there's a power down button. That's what you have to hit. And you say yes, and it goes and talks to the amps and shuts those off for you.
That's awesome.
And then starts to shut this down, and now it says, now it's safe to hit the switch.
Well, the dummy screen over there says the amps are still on.
Does it? It probably says stand.
You should sit out when you go to bed every night. Katie, it is shutting down.
When you turn it on, it goes through all its checks and then
I was wrong. But this mixer's smart enough that it doesn't thump the PA. But over there on that touch screen, you can turn the power amps off, which I recommend doing. And in this case, it doesn't matter which order, but I would recommend developing a personal habit to hit that first. Okay, because other systems aren't this smart. So, and that's it. And I will bundle these songs up for you guys to fiddle with. That's a really good idea. Okay? Any questions? Anything? We'll be doing the same thing next week and probably the week after that. And then we're going to set up a schedule. I haven't talked to Nathan about this yet. As much as possible, every week going forward after that, one of you guys is going to be with me mixing. And I will do the first couple of times, depending on how adept you feel about it. I will do the first couple of times, and you are asking me questions. Why did you do that? What did you do? And I will explain, and then I will step back and let you drive. And I'll jump in emergencies. And then I won't show up afterwards. Okay?
It's terrifying.
Yes, it is.
No, it's fun. It's not terrifying. It's fun. It's fun. There's a whole bunch of other things, like how does the sound get out to the lobby? I don't know how it does.
I don't know.
There's a
So over there.
Dummy screen
It's over
does
there.
it.
Dummy
Over
screen.
there?
I get
Okay.
house music out there, but
Slide right here for external audio, so we can
Okay.
control lobby, family restrooms, and
Okay.
So you can crank the restrooms.
Make them ear piercing.
Juice them. Step on the gas.